Good evening and welcome to Superintendent's Corner. My name is Richard Safier, and we're here to talk about some of the issues facing the Gloucester Public School District, our successes, our challenges, and most importantly to talk to the people behind those particular issues. Tonight we're going to talk about health, nutrition, growing, and harvesting, and we have two wonderful guests here tonight. From Backyard Growers, we have Lara Lepionka, and from the agency called Food Corps, we have Meghan Stratton. Welcome and thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terrific. For starters, could you just each take a turn and give us a little bit of personal biography about yourself and how you got involved in what you do?
Sure.
Lara?
Well, my background is actually in the fine arts. I have an MFA, and I proceeded to work in the arts and in the nonprofit world for many years. And then we came to doing our own backyard garden during the Great Recession of 2008, when a lot of people were struggling in our neighborhood, and our family was one of them. And we sort of had this aha moment of, let's take back some control over one piece of our lives and tear up our lawn and start growing our own food. And so without knowing it, that was the birth of Backyard Growers, because after we got up and running, growing our own food, it was shortly after that that we started to work in our own neighborhood to get other folks growing their own food. So that was the genesis of the whole.
That's really interesting.
So
and
I go from art to nonprofit to tearing up my lawn.
Right, and that really is the true meaning of the word homegrown, isn't it? Wow. How about you, Meghan? A little background?
Yeah, well, I'm from Syracuse, New York, upstate New York. Grew up around farmland, and then went to college at Binghamton University, started studying English, actually. So then came to all this through a documentary film class where we were just watching so many films, and I kept seeing environmental issues, health issues, social issues, and it kept all coming back to food. So then got involved in the university farm, got involved in the university food co-op and university dining issues. I just found like a lot of fun and just very interesting, but a lot of fun, a lot of vitality through that. And I applied to Food Corps and then got placed with Lara at Backyard Growers.
Right, so both of you, by your own devices, have gone from the fine arts to food, so to speak. Terrific. So let's get into it a little bit then. Tell us, Lara, what is, in general, what is the Backyard Growers program?
So Backyard Growers has three main pieces. It has our founding program, which is the Backyard Garden program. And that was born out of our original experience of getting people started in our own neighborhood. In the very beginning, we partnered with the Food Project, which is another local regional organization. They helped us with a lot of the resources to get started, and essentially we would provide raised bed gardens and supplies and training for low to moderate income families in our neighborhood, and then each year it would grow to other neighborhoods, bringing more people in. So that's how it started, and while all that was happening, little did we know we were also sort of creating a community garden program where we were putting gardens in certain housing communities like Pondview Village, and working with organizations like the Open Door, helping them with their garden. So we were starting to build out a lot of community garden opportunities as well. So we have the backyard piece, the community piece, and then we have our schoolyard garden program, which is actually our most recent program, and it was partly the connection with Food Corps that made it possible, but it's also our largest program because we're serving the entire school district at this point with our programs.
Indeed. Good, good.
And we started out really small when the program started in 2010. From 2010 to 2013, it still was very sort of just the backyard piece, and then right at 2013, we became a big organization so far as I was concerned.
We'll talk about that a little bit, but I also want to ask Meghan to describe for us Food Corps and what the relationship is between Food Corps and Backyard Growers.
Absolutely. Food Corps is a nationwide team of AmeriCorps leaders service members who serve all across the country, and we connect kids to good food and help them to grow up healthy. So that can look like a lot of different things, from trying to get more local food into cafeterias to having schoolyard gardens like we do, and to going into classrooms to teach a little bit more about food and nutrition, which we do all three of those actually. So so that's the national program, and then on a statewide level we partner with one major statewide organization, which in Massachusetts is the Food Project, and like Lara said, that Backyard Growers has a really strong relationship with the Food Project. So when they're looking for sites for service members, because we all have like one local nonprofit or a school district that we serve at specifically, Backyard Growers became a site.
Right, so it seemed like a natural connection. forgive me, even an organic one, if you will. So we do have a couple of clips, and I'd like us to see a brief clip which sort of explains and promotes what Backyard Grow is in. So if we can go to that, please, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Willa.
And I'm B.
And this is our mom, Lara. She's the director of Backyard Growers, this really cool organization that provides garden beds and programs to families, schools, and community groups in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Lara's the best!
In 5 short years, Backyard Growers has evolved from providing a handful of neighbors with backyard gardens to all this. Backyard Growers is a small, scrappy, nonprofit organization. We know how to do a lot with a little.
So there it is. Lara, what can you tell us a little bit about the history behind that clip?
Sure. So that was part of a fundraising video we had put together a couple years ago when we were evolving from having the Backyard Growers happen from my kitchen table to having our own office space and our own space in which to run all our operations. But a lot of the footage in there is of our fall harvest events at East Gloucester School. And in it you can see the kids harvesting all of the vegetables they planted in the spring and going through the whole process of the discovery of pulling things out of the ground. And that's really what we found is so powerful about the program is kids just having access to being able to get their hands in the garden. A lot of kids just don't have that opportunity, and to especially a lot of the younger children, we noticed a lot of, we had a great kindergartner last year who were all standing around the carrot bed, and she did not believe me that there were carrots under the ground. She was like, "You're crazy. There's nothing there. I just see this green stuff." And then the look on her face when she reaches down and pulls it out of just this recognition, like you wonder if that's that moment where a lot of connections are being made for her about where food comes from. It's, I think, really powerful.
I'm going to back up just a little bit, and you had mentioned the backyard, you had mentioned the community gardens, and then this thing permutated into working with the schools and the school gardens. Is there a little bit more detail there that led to the evolution of the school garden process?
Yes, so it actually, the original model was when it wasn't even part of Backyard Growers. It was when I was just a volunteer parent at West Parish School where my daughters went. One of them is still there. Where we, a few of the schools had gardens at that time. Backyard Growers was not yet doing school gardens because we didn't have the capacity to do it yet. But we had these gardens, and it was, I was the one, obviously, that had to take care of it. And the idea was, okay, I don't have any time. I don't have little funds. It's hard to get bunch of people to do, a lot of work in the garden over the summer. So how can you develop a program that's really impactful, that doesn't generate tons of work that then people get disappointed because they can't maintain it. So the strategy was to have each grade level come and plant a very specific fall crop that requires very little maintenance over the summer, so that when they come back in the fall, there it is. So it's a lot of things. We plant potatoes, beets, carrots, winter squash, pumpkins, and sunflowers. So and drying beans, so you don't get the green bean, you get the dry beans inside. So it's a lot of crops that can just survive some neglect. And so that's how it started, and that's actually how it's remained, because it's been extremely effective. And as the program's grown, we've gotten a lot more support of parents coming and helping water and doing a lot of the things. But by holding on to that piece of it, then we really make sure that we have crops for students to harvest when they get back. Because if you do a lot of things like tomatoes or zucchini, that's a summer harvest. It's not when the kids are back in school.
Right. And Meghan, I've been over to some of the sites to see the work this year and in past years and stuff, and you seem to have a knack for organizing how the children should do the work. I've also heard you encourage them to get their hands as dirty as possible. I don't think the parents would mind because it's in the service of a really good cause. So what does it take? I mean, for example, you've been at Beeman, and there's 350 students. That's a lot of planting, a lot of harvesting. So just the mechanics of organizing them to make sure this thing goes smoothly and everybody gets a good experience out of it.
Yeah, a lot of those, there's a lot of little things that I picked up at my first food corps orientation. Like, we'll have the kids come out and we have the garden bed and we say, like, okay, everybody get your toes against the bed. And even just like having them be in the right place, right. Really helps so much. Just like that one little thing. There's like a lot of things like that where it's like very physical. Like even today, I heard almost like a voice of someone from food corps orientation in my mind that's saying that like I need you, like your eyes here and your ears like right here, because there was like recess happening and another class out, and it actually really works. So I mean, giving them like really physical little reminders like that, and then also being very goofy and just like, it's funny, you see someone in the office all the time, like you spend a lot of time together, and then as soon as they're both out there, we're like doing goofy, weird things, and like you make your gestures really big, almost just to like catch their eyes, and really as much as their attention as you can keep focused on yourself, and then direct straight into the garden, really helps. And I mean, getting the hands dirty, like I think it just makes it a lot more fun, and also it's like a little trick where it's like, okay, everyone show me your dirty hands. Well, they're showing you their dirty hands. No one's pulling anything up or doing anything crazy. So it just kind of builds on itself.
Right. And the kindergartners, the first graders, are we able to corral them to get involved in the work and all the rest?
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah. Good, good. Well, maybe we should go to our second clip. I think this is at Veterans School, if I'm not mistaken, and we can see some of the work that our kids are doing. So let's roll that second clip.
I'm Jill Watch with Cape Ann TV, and today we're at Veterans Memorial School talking with backyard growers about harvesting establishments for the school's lunches. Let's take a look at what they're growing. I'm speaking with Executive Director Lara Lepionka of Backyard Growers. Lara, tell us a little bit about what you do with Backyard Growers.
So Backyard Growers, we have 3 distinct programs. We have the Backyard Garden program, where we provide raised bed gardens and training and mentor support for low to moderate income families in Gloucester to start growing their own food in their own backyards. And then we have a bunch of community gardens here in Gloucester and work with different organizations who want to grow food to serve their clients. And we have our schoolyard garden program, which is what we're doing today. We are district-wide, and what we're doing today is our Fall Harvest Days program.
This is Meghan Stratton. Meghan, thanks for coming on the show. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do as a food corps service member for Backyard Growers?
So what I do in Gloucester with Backyard Growers is I run a lot of our school programs. So that means that at all 5 elementary schools we have these school gardens, and what's going on today is that in June they planted a bunch of fall crops. Those grow all summer, and parents and different community volunteers come and they water the gardens and take care of them. And then in September, right now, all the kids come out and they harvest the same crops that they planted. So for the 3rd grade, that's just coming out in a few minutes, they planted, as 2nd graders in June, they planted dry beans, and now they've grown, now they've dried out, and they're going to pick them up and take all the nice little beans out. And it's pretty fun because they're colorful inside, and they really have a full seed to fork experience with all these crops.
I'm speaking with Principal Matt Fusco of Veterans Memorial School. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great.
Great. Why did you incorporate Backyard Gardens into Veteran Memorial's school program?
I actually didn't incorporate it into the school. It was here when I became principal. I just thought it was the most imaginative, amazing program that I've seen. Kids love it. They are so involved. I love to watch them harvest. Great thing about it is kind of a community venture. People come and water it over the summer. They take care of it. So it's really just a great all-around thing, complete learning experience.
I'm speaking with some of the 2nd graders who have benefited from Backyard Growers, Gavin, Santana, and Miley.
I like to plant watermelon, cucumbers, and carrots, and I like to put the seeds in and cover them up with dirt. My favorite plant is watermelon, and the reason I like it is because it's so juicy.
I'm speaking with 4th grade teacher and backyard grower, Amy Clayton. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm great, thanks.
How do the children benefit from Backyard Growers?
They're seeing from seed to fork what the food that they harvested and that they get a chance to do this. Once they harvest and we have the harvest days, the kids are definitely taking risks and trying more food. And I notice after lunch, they'll come to me and they'll tell me, oh, I tried the salad, I tried this. So I think they are definitely trying new things that they may not have tried before because they're actually seeing where it came from and that it came from them personally. So they are definitely trying new stuff.
I hope you enjoyed the coverage of the fall harvest. I'm Jill Watch, and thanks for watching.
Well, terrific. Kids are involved. They're really concentrating. They're focused. Lara, would you comment a little bit on that clip?
Sure. So that's at Veterans School. We have a great garden there. It's right at the front of the school. So it gets a lot of people coming through and seeing what's going on there. And they harvested all those crops that I mentioned before. And what's great is when we all circle up in the beginning to say, what did you guys plant last year before you left? And they often will remember exactly what it was. But the thing that they always remember is planting lettuce, because that's the other component of our program. Right now we're doing fall harvest days. The other piece is called salad days, which we do in the spring, where all of the children throughout the district come out and they plant all different kinds of lettuce varieties, red and green and speckled and romaine and all these different textures and colors. And the reason why we plant lettuce is because it's a short season cool crop that can have the whole life cycle and the harvest while the kids are still in school. So we're always trying to manage the school calendar and the reality of that. So all of the children grow their lettuce every year and harvest it. And this brings in the very important piece of our relationship with the school food service department, where we collaborate with all the kitchen managers and the food service director to bring the food from the garden into the cafeteria, which is sort of the holy grail of school garden, school, farm to school, is to be able to get that produce back into the kitchen so it can come out in our little sample cups so the kids can try it. And so the kids, they sit down, they get their sample cup, and we really try to encourage them, as you saw in the clip, of, try this and try that, and they get a little I tried it sticker, and they really live for those I tried it stickers. And the kids are often surprised. So everyone thinks they hate beets. And I'm like, try this little red one. This is a beet. And of course it's delicious because it's been roasted, so it's all the natural sugars have come out. And I like the look on their face when they're like, oh, like that wasn't so bad. So having that component where they get to have the seed to fork, where they plant it, they watch it grow, they pick it, and they help prepare it to some extent, and then they get a chance to eat it, really creates that full circle.
Right, right. I was about to ask whether, why is this program important? And you've been sort of not circling it, but rather answering the question. From an educational point of view, aside from the nutritional aspects and understanding of the origins of where the food comes from, there's also this notion of what an authentic learning experience is all about. And when we think of our vocational programs, students are not only mapping things out on a software program on a computer, but then they're going out and building the thing. And that's a real authentic experience. And we have students in classrooms all the time, but to get them to read about it, hear about it, learn about it, but then to actually do it is something which is, that's really what you're looking for in education. It would be great if students who are taking an algebra class were actually building small model homes.
Yes.
Or using trigonometry to build a roof, which of course can be done and stuff. And that's sort of what the Backyard Growers and Food Corps is bringing to our kids at an early age.
Well, and we're also we've expanded into the 6th grade.
I was about to ask that question. You're anticipating my questions. I was going to ask Meghan that so we can hear her voice a little bit. So what schools? And you've expanded to O'Malley as well?
Yeah, we're at the high school too. So we do like an after-school program there and the preschool. But at O'Malley, we're doing a really interesting, I think, program with 6th grade where it's this interdisciplinary program where they're doing popcorn. They're studying popcorn. And we actually, they built the beds and they gridded them all out last year. They filled them with compost. We talked about compost. We talked about chemical reactions in compost. We talked about a lot of different things. And then they planted cover crops, and then they planted popcorn. And the popcorn grew all summer. And then we just harvested it in September, a couple weeks ago. And now it's all drying in there in the library, actually, in these sacks in the window. So if anyone's over there. And then
I should tell you I'm a big popcorn fan, so
You'll have to go to Popcorn Friday.
Yes.
And then we talk about, you know, like the culture behind popcorn in the US, but then also in South America. And we talk about like different ways you can use popcorn with like English and things like that, which is so easy and so rich. And then the science of why popcorn pops and how popcorn is different than any other kind of corn. And like there's just so many different ways you can get to it. And I know the teachers were having them read articles about popcorn and about different things, and they'll come out and then they'll tell me like, well, I know this about popcorn, so that's really fun.
I do have to ask, why is popcorn corn, or how is it different from other corn?
Go ahead.
All right, well, popcorn is different from other corn because, well, you let it dry, so it's kind of like the dry beans, you let it dry. But popcorn has to be very hard, it has to have a very hard kernel, so that the pressure, that there's a little bit of water, right, and still inside the corn, into the kernel of corn. And then that gets heated and the pressure builds. But if the pressure could just escape, if it weren't very hard and it just like, you know, broke open really fast, then it wouldn't really have that really satisfying pop. But because it's so hard, the pressure builds so much, then the kernel completely explodes.
So by virtue of the harder shell, they're more combustible, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I didn't know that. Next time I shake the thing on the
You'll
stove,
be thinking that.
I'll be thinking about that. You mentioned the preschool.
Yes.
So, and I've seen those because I work in the same building, and it's been fantastic. I've been taking some vegetables over the summer, I have to confess, carrots in particular. So talk a little bit about the preschool kids and how we get them involved.
So that's another new piece. I think we built the pre-K garden just last year.
Yeah.
And so that last year pre-K cohort of students will be the first group that will have gardens throughout their entire Gloucester public school education, which is kind of a wonderful idea. And they have a stone soup curriculum. And so we're matching up our garden with them, with what they're doing with the stone soup curriculum to put together a meal and have these pre-K kids, you know, try these new foods. So that's, we try as much as possible to match things up with what teachers are already doing. And also because it's the fall, even though in the elementary schools we're not handing curriculum off to teachers, there's so many obvious ways that teachers are already doing things about autumn that they can take advantage of this opportunity to, you know, extrapolate and build upon it.
Wow. So much of this is about sustainability. So in terms of your programs, let's talk a little bit about sustainability. You've become, Backyard Growers has become a relatively large operation, especially the way you described your early beginnings and such. So how does Backyard Growers manage to maintain adequate funding? And a second question, I guess, would be, what do we see for the future?
Great. We rely quite heavily on grant funding. That's our biggest source of funding. Our ratios are a little bit off. We're about like 80% grant funding, so we really rely heavily there. And we've had a lot of success with our grant writing because we are touching upon so many important topics that funders are interested in. You know, we're dealing with the health, nutrition, wellness, obesity issues. We're dealing with environmental issues, food security. So there's all different sort of avenues there that funders want to fund right now. And we are also slowly building a lot of people within the community that are supporting our work. And then we also do some things that help us earn money, like do plant sales and sell our T-shirts. And so that's how we're sustaining ourselves at the moment. In addition to Meghan, who's Food Corps AmeriCorps, we just this year have 2 new AmeriCorps service members through the Mass Lift program. So now we have 3 AmeriCorps serving in Gloucester through Backyard Growers, which is a real boon, I think, for the community. So that's how we're sustaining ourselves at the moment, and we've been working with a fiscal agent all of this time until we recently received our own 501c3 nonprofit status. So now we're working on developing other ways to sustain ourselves for the long term. But I think for the future, we're really devoted to Gloucester, and we're really devoted to deepening the work we're already doing here. In many ways, I feel like we've scraped the surface of what's possible with what we're already doing. So now I want to really sink in deep with everything. And then also our schoolyard garden program has become a model. The fall harvest days and the salad days, there are other communities in our area, other schools that work with the Food Project who are interested in emulating what we're doing here, which is very exciting. So that is another piece of what we're doing, is working with other school districts to show them this model.
But that won't take you away from the Gloucester project at all.
No.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I just want to probe. You talking about working or digging deeper, no pun intended, with the backyard growers and the like. So what does that mean?
So with our backyard and community gardeners, we've found that often it's not enough just to give people support for 2 years. We need more of an ongoing presence. And with community gardens, they require sort of consistent management and consistent, it's like we're more of a people organization. We're working with people all the time, and we need to sustain those relationships. And we also want to provide more learning opportunities for families, do more cooking prep programs with families, add more gardening programs, more knowledge for people within our programs and in the community to take advantage of. And with the schools, we're also developing some in-school winter programming that matches up with what we do in the fall and the spring, and so really developing those pieces more and offering them to all of the schools.
Are hydroponics around the corner by any chance?
We leave that to the 6th grade. They're doing a great job with that.
Good,
yeah.
good. Well, I want to thank you. We're just about out of time. The work that you do and the education that you provide is what education, in fact, should be all about, and giving children a real opportunity to use all of the senses and to learn about wonderful and important things at the same time. So thank you for the work that you do. You have our support and our appreciation. And for Superintendent's Corner, I say good evening.